Hello, everyone. I'm very excited to be here with Dganit, who is from the CEO of a very interesting fund. It's called Smart Agro Fund, located in Israel. Um, Dganit, tell me about yourself a little bit. Tell me about this investment fund. I'm very curious to hear about this.
So I'll start with introducing myself, and thank you for having me here.
Of course.
I'm easy to understand. I'm originally from Israel. I was born in Jerusalem. Most of my career I did with Intel.
Oh, wow.
Started as a chemical engineer. I started as a process engineer, then engineering management. Several years in the U.S. in Intel's R&D in Portland, and then starting up factories in Albuquerque. The last position was the Israeli site manager for facilities and operations. That means both sites in Jerusalem and Kiryat Gat, a very big organization.
Yeah.
After 17 years with the Intel, I decided to move to Perigo, Pharma. Was a VP R&D in the API division. And then I was the VP R&D in Hazera. And this was really my introduction to agriculture. Hazera is a seed company. I had the breeders spread all over the world, and I met farmers, marketing people, and that's when I realized what's going on in the agriculture arena. And realizing the problems that exist in this area, climate change, inputs, how complicated it is to grow, how optimistic you need to be in order to be a farmer, as well as every hurdle that can happen does happen. Sure. And I decided to move into the innovation side of things. So I was chairperson of the board with Via Aqua for 4.5 years. Via Aqua is doing health enhancement for aquaculture using RNA. I was in parallel a CEO of a startup doing biopesticides. And in the last 4 years, I'm in investments in Agri-Tech. I believe that in that position, I can help as many possible companies to grow and succeed. As well, it's a collaboration of making money for my investors and helping the companies become unicorns.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's the vision.
You've had a lot of different amazing experiences. I mean, coming from Intel, that's a different field, but you're going into all these. Then you made your path into different agricultural companies, and wow, that's very interesting. So you've definitely seen a lot. Now, so when did you become the CEO of the Smart Agro Fund? When did that start?
Smart Agro started in October 2020. I joined in May 2021. Gotcha. So a year and 3 months or so. Mm-hmm. And when I got into this position, there was one investment in the fund, and now we have 6 portfolio companies. Mm-hmm. We identified clearly what are the areas we want to invest in, and we started investing in companies. Smart Agro is a fund out of the Israeli Stock Exchange, meaning it's publicly traded. That means that the public really looks at what we do and can decide if they want to keep holding our stocks or not. From the other side, it's an evergreen. We can always go to our investors and try to raise more money in the stock market. And we don't, it's not like a regular VC that you invest for 3 or 4 years, and then after 10 years, you check if you were successful or not. If we do an exit in 2-3 years, we'll be able to split and pay dividends to our holders if that's what the board will decide. It's all managed by my board. My board is my committees of the board are my investment committee, and I have a very strong team there that make sure that we make the right decisions on investments. We only invest in companies that we see a strong product market fit and market traction, and that's usually a trigger for us to go in. I think that's...
Wow. Yeah, yeah. Well, tell me, who started the actual fund? You came in a little later. I mean, it's only been like 2 years. who started the fund? Who was the first person there?
So it was the fund was started by the GPs. I'm managing the investments for the GP and for the LPs. The LPs are the market, and the GPs are people from the stock exchange. There are Yossi Tamar and Shai Lior and Israel Tiber, who is from real estate, and Guy Goren is also touching industry. And those are the people that really started the fund. And they raised about 26 million shekels in October of 2020, made the first investment in Better Seeds. I joined in May, and we made investments in Aruga and in Suplat. And then we went for another money raising. And since we raised another fund, another additional funds of about 20 million, we went and invested in Fruit Spec, and then in Agri-Tech and in Plantish.
Wow.
So,
that's really interesting. Now, what's the vision of the fund? What are you guys trying to do? You guys are trying to buy companies in order to grow them, or you're trying to invest in companies in order to, help the agricultural industry? What's the purpose of the fund?
Our vision is, first of all, to help companies that solves big problem in agriculture grow. And we believe that because of the climate change, agriculture is being the key element that will solve the way that we feed the world.
Correct.
And we believe that helping either reducing the impact of agriculture on climate, because agriculture produces a lot of CO2, and producing more food, like eliminating food waste, taking care of the land, finding technologies and digitalization of this field will help a lot the ability to grow more food in order to feed the world. Population is going to grow to 10 billion people by 2050. We'll need to produce a lot more food in order to feed everyone. And how do you do that? By reducing the climate impact that agriculture causes. So we went ahead and identified 6 pillars that we invest in. The key problems that we see are water, for example, soil quality and desertification. That's one pillar. The second pillar is talking about robotics, automation, the lack of manpower and bees, because bees are responsible for 70% of what we eat.
Bees?
Yes, bees. They pollinate almost everything that we
bees,
eat.
Yeah. Oh, without bees, you can't do anything.
Right. So bees are either protect them or replace them, but you can't ignore them.
Correct.
The next one is supply chain and waste reduction along the supply chain. We're losing about 30% of the food before it even reaches the retailer, meaning if there's mismatch between what's happening in the field and what the retailer requires, sometimes the farmer will not even pick the fruits. So you really need good alignment. If you don't use the best practices in the field, then you will not get the best possible yield. So that's another pillar. The next pillar is financing and insurance and CO2. It's from CO2 capturing and trading to financing the farmers or ensuring the farmers and agriculture growth. And the next one is precision genetics and biotech. We believe that a lot of problems can be solved through precision genetics. One of our companies is dealing with that. That's Better Seeds. And the alternative sources of protein, like Plantish, for example. Precision and biological pest and disease control. We believe this is another element that requires a lot of attention. So those are kind of the 6 pillars we invested in. And our companies are mapped through those pillars. And there's still more work to do there. We're not done investing.
Yeah, no, there's so many amazing agricultural technology companies coming out of Israel. Um, you're probably looking at companies all day. Now, tell me about. Now, what do you see the role of, let's say, like these are all Israeli companies, right? What do you see the role of Israel? Like, what do you see the role that Israel plays in the agricultural field? Israel's a teeny country, teeny. They have a lot of technology in regards to agriculture that affects the entire world. What do you see like Israel's role as in regards to that? Because food is everything, food and water. That's the basic necessities.
True. So I think you got it right. First of all, the ecosystem in Israel is very supportive for entrepreneurs. And there's a good reason why we're called Startup Nation, because this is part of our DNA, finding solutions to problems. I think that challenging ourselves, not being so afraid of failure. We're not that traditionally very conservative. We try things, we check things, we like to play with things.
Yeah.
And the Israeli entrepreneur, unlike other areas in the world, never thinks about Israel. Israel is a nice pilot, test my technology playground. And it is the perfect match, because there is desert and there's mountains and the variety of climates is huge. So you can test your technology in a variety of places. And that way you can really check before you go to the big market that your product actually works. But any Israeli entrepreneur will look at the product market fit. On top of that, there is a very strong and supportive ecosystem. If you look at the ecosystem in Israel, it's very different than anywhere else. There is the Israeli Innovation Authority that gives funds to startups. There is Startup Nation Central that connects startups to business around the world, really doing fascinating and amazing work to help companies reach globally and build strong collaborations. There is a growing IL that is working to build a community and grow this community. Desert Tech, when you look at the desert technology, there's the Export Institute. If you look at the research institutes, any research institute in Israel that respect themselves has something to do with agriculture. It can be robotics for example, in Ben-Gurion, and it can be breeding in the Hebrew University. Tel Aviv and Weizmann are doing biotechnology. You have Migal, you have Volcani. It's so extensive that you know that the universities are there. So you have source of IP and knowledge coming in.
Gotcha.
And corporates are also active here very widely. You will see that most of the corporates have some touch of their corporate VC in Israel. So the whole ecosystem is built for the Israeli entrepreneur.
Interesting.
And of course, there are the incubators that help them grow as well.
That it's very true what you say. They create an environment for startups in order for them to grow. And if they do fail, it's okay, because I've met so many CEOs that have failed in many different startups or have reinvented their startup many times, but it doesn't matter. They keep going until they hit what they want. That's very interesting. Now, you guys are looking at food, right? You guys are looking at food. Right now, you're looking at the world, right? Is there what do you guys see the world as right now? What's the projection? Like, is there a food shortage right now, or is the world okay in regards to food? And also in the future, what do you guys see the world going into? Feeding the whole planet. Like, is there going to be enough food?
So first of all, we are looking at agriculture as a source for food, and this is our focus. There's also VCs looking and funds looking at food as ingredients and things like that. We try to focus mostly on agriculture and affiliated areas, like water, like alternative protein, things like that. We touched it.
Yeah.
I believe that when you look at the temperature being raised, and we're talking about 1.5 degrees are probably going to happen. We're trying to avoid the more than that. And when you talk about the CO2 emissions and similar things, okay? For example, methane, that cows there are about 7 billion cows in the world, almost the same number as people. Just because Yeah, just because people keep consuming meat, okay? Let's leave the dairy food out of the equation, okay? But just for meat, in order to generate 1 kilogram of food, of meat, you need to feed the cow 25 kilograms of food. And I'm not talking about how much water you need to give them as well. So this is like a drain of energy and food into cows. Now, I'm not talking about everyone stop eating cows, okay? But definitely, I stopped eating cows 2 years ago because I realized what it does. So, and methane is much more harmful than CO2, for example, okay? So when I'm looking at the industry has to change. The way we consume food has to change. You know, people need to reduce dramatically the amount of meat they eat. It's not really healthy for us. And if you have to eat some, okay, but don't eat every day, reduce it dramatically, that will help. The second thing is really finding a way to grow in a more protective environment, whatever you can do in protective environment, and there you can probably grow more. The problem is costing, and I believe that with the changing climate, the cost of growing outside will go up because you will have lower yields and you'll need to adjust the inputs. The other thing that is hurting dramatically now is soil that is turning into dirt, meaning we're losing a lot of land for land depletion and degradation. We're not keeping the soil cover, so floods are washing away the soil. We give too much fertilizers and chemicals using for pest control, and that also hurts the soil quality. There is movement to biologicals, but the market is not there. There's more and more adoption, but it's not there yet. So I believe we'll have to be more precise with how we use it, and we'll need to change the practices of agriculture. And it's really hard because if you look at the farmer, he said, look, you know, I have, let's say I have 30 years of growing. So I have 30 chances to do it right. If I know that what I'm doing right now is working for me, and you're expecting me to change the way I grow things, what is my, insurance that if I do what you tell me, it's really gonna work? So agriculture is looking for early adopters for working in regenerative agriculture practices, and you can see it expanding around the world. And I think farmers, it's more difficult to grow that way because you need to change the way and you need to look very closely at what you do. But at the end of the day, it pays back. And I believe it's part of what needs to happen in order to change. I do believe there will be hunger in the world in the coming years, and it will be more and more severe. I believe there will be wars on food. They will start, not today, maybe not tomorrow, but if we'll get more and more years like we got in the past year, it's going to go harder and it's going to be more difficult.
Correct. I mean, you have all these different things happening. You hear about coffee, got this like coffee plant, like there was the coffee, something happened with the cocoa beans, and there's all these things that are happening in the world right now quickly. Bad things happening to crops, especially with the bees are not producing the way they used to. Like there's not enough. This is not going to be good long term if we don't fix it, because we're having more and more people in the world, and we need more food.
I agree.
So I think this is the forefront of what really needs to be focused on in the world right now is food and water. Because also you see what happened in Ukraine. They produce wheat, and people are getting nervous now because wheat shortages, which is actually a very scary thing. So this is very interesting. Now, can you tell me, elaborate any of the company, like some of the companies in the fund, like some of the technologies that they're creating, stuff that you find very fascinating, maybe that you want to share?
Sure. The companies that we invest in were thoroughly checked before we invested, of course. The first thing we look at the companies is making sure it has a strong team with diverse capabilities and ability to grow into $1 billion companies. Otherwise, we don't invest.
Interesting.
let's go through the companies one by one. We have Better Seeds. Better Seeds is a seed company using CRISPR-Cas technology. We're already identified as one of the top 15 companies doing CRISPR-Cas worldwide. Wow. They started with hemp and cannabis and expanded into cocoa and cowpeas and additional plants. And they're going for desired traits that are beneficial for the climate change. Okay.
So are they creating like better seeds? Is that what they're doing? Like
they are doing better seeds. Yes.
Yeah.
Bottom line, their name is exactly define what it is that they do.
That's amazing.
So that's Better Seeds. The second company we invested in is Aruga. It's in the pollination area. They built a robot that using artificial intelligence and is able to pollinate greenhouse tomatoes and replacing bees. They already started sales in Australia and in US. They now expanded into Finland and additional countries. They're ramping up these days, and they are adding additional modules into their robot, meaning they're going to replace both bees and humans in the labor in the greenhouse.
That is really cool. Wow.
Very cool. The next company is Supplant. Supplant is doing precision irrigation. They're doing full sensing on the plant, and they tell you what the plant needs. They're unmuting the plant. That's what they call it. And they can save money on watering and can improve your yields. They have extraordinary results, for example, on dates, increasing the amount of premium fruit while reducing the water consumption. The reason it happens, even us, if we eat too much or drink too much, we don't feel good. If we don't drink or eat enough, we don't feel good. So when you make it precise, this is what, part of precision irrigation or precision agriculture, you give the plant what they need and when they need. And by doing the what and when, you're able to make it better for the plant to be at its best.
Right, that's it.
Yeah, so that feels like it's no-brainer, but there's a lot of technology behind it.
Of course.
The next one is FruitSpec. FruitSpec has a device that goes through the field and it measures the fruit size. For example, in orchards of apples, of citrus, stone fruits, etc. And they measure the size as well as give you yield prediction. By doing that, for example, if the fruits are too small, then you can take some of the fruits off and the fruits that will be left will be at the proper size to get the premium prices. If they're too small, you will not be able to sell them. And that makes the alignment between the contracts sold, signed, and what you have in the field more accurate. So they can work with the packing house or with the retailer and give them a picture of what kind of fruits exists where in their field. So they can say, okay, we need this size now. This amount will go to this area to do the picking this week. Gotcha. Okay, and this streamlines the supply chain. Wow. The next company we invested in is Agri-Tech. I think you interviewed them lately, recently.
Yeah, soon.
Okay. Agri-Tech is another supply chain optimization company. They're doing digitalization of the supply chain. They work with food and beverages companies. And for example, if they work with Starbucks, they work with all the growers, thousands of growers around the globe. They standardize the growing protocols. They make sure all the data goes into one repository. And that way they can give you insights for decision-making along the supply chain. This is like a game changer to reducing the waste and streamlining the supply chain. They also have another arm that is doing a risk analysis for insurance for farmers. And that way the insurance companies can calculate what premium the farmer needs to pay for the insurance. Now with the climate change, this is a big important thing. How do you get the climate information into that? It's a game changer.
Wow.
Our last investment that we've made is Plantish. Plantish is taking a soybean protein, turns it into salmon fillet, meaning better fish for you. So you're getting the same feel, taste, and everything, but it's all plant-based. So we're taking agriculture and replacing aquaculture because, you know, there is overfishery in the world. We're hurting the seas dramatically, and the amount of fish in the sea is depleting. If you look at salmon growing, it's very limited. You can't grow too much salmon in one area. For example, Norway is fully using their area for growing salmon, to my best knowledge, due to diseases and pests. So you must find alternatives to growing them in captivity and overfishing.
Wow, that one's interesting. All those companies they're revolutionary. They're all changing the way we think about agriculture. I see why you guys are invested. I mean, like they're all needed, all of them. That's so interesting. Wow, it's very exciting. It's very exciting to see these companies.
Yeah, and the idea of Smart Agro that we help the companies grow. You understand my background and that I saw industry. I know corporate. I know R&D, so I can really work with the companies to help them grow. So this is kind of our strategy. We identify amazing teams and amazing companies, and we help them grow.
I love it. Now, so I'm assuming you guys are always looking into other companies, and you probably have a very rigorous process, you know, in order to make sure that you get a company that you deem fit. So that's right. You're probably you're probably speaking to companies at the moment. I don't know. You're probably always looking, right? All the time.
All the time.
Now, I'm just curious. I don't know if you can say the exact numbers. What's the ratio of, like, let's say you look at like 10 companies. Do you choose one? Like, how many companies do you have to go through in order to find these amazing companies that could be unicorns or will be unicorns?
It doesn't work that way. I can meet 10 companies and invest in zero. I can meet 100 companies and invest in zeros. And
Gotcha.
I can meet the one and it will be 1 out of 1. Okay. We meet companies. Yeah, we meet companies all the time. What we look at, we look at 4 key parameters. Okay. That's one of the things that I learned as a venture partner with Entre Capital. 4 parameters are the key in order to make a good investment. The first and the most important one is the team.
Yeah, team. Mm-hmm.
If the team is amazing, you can have a mediocre idea. If the market is good, and they will make a $1 billion company because they will be able to adjust it to what the market needs and will find the perfect product market fit, and they will sell it. You know, there are like those people that can sell ice to Eskimos.
Correct.
You need to be able to have some kind of this capability on the sales, but you need to have a strong product because at some point the Eskimos do realize that you're selling them.
Yeah.
So you need people that can have the capability to sell, but also people that can build a product that solves a big problem in the market. And that brings me to the second thing. The market needs to be big enough. Mm-hmm. Okay. And the technology needs to be proprietary, right? Is that the right word? It needs to be revolutionizing the market. It needs to be significantly game changer there. Mm-hmm. And the last thing is timing. You try to make sure that, for example, alternative proteins, hard to find a differentiator of another company that builds hamburgers from plant-based, okay? And that's why, you know, a fillet of salmon from plant-based is something that there are not that many, it's not a crowded area. It's a blue ocean. So you can, if there are 2, 3, 5 companies, let's say may the best one win, and sometimes there is place for 5 companies. For example, precision irrigation is a market that is growing. There is place for more than 1 company there.
Gotcha.
Okay? So those are the 4 parameters.
That makes complete sense. Wow. Wow, this fund's brand new, but it seems like not brand new. It's newish, but it seems like it's going to go up. It's going to go places big because agriculture is huge. People look at Israel as one of the places, or one of the top places to have all the high-end technology for agriculture, and you have the fund that looks into companies to get these amazing companies, bigger. So I think people are going to be directed towards you. I know, that's what I see.
So I need to just say what I'm telling you in this podcast is the information that I'm sharing with the public anywhere. Right. Okay? Right. I'm not recommending anyone to buy. It's not something that we're allowed to do. Okay.
Right. No, I agree.
But this is what we do, and that's how we act, and this is transparent to the public. So 100%. Everyone can make their own choice, but I cannot recommend anything.
Yes, me neither. But I like it, and I think it's very interesting.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving us the time to explain what you guys do and about all these amazing companies in the fund. Really eye-opening just to hear about what's happening and what's the future is going to look like for agriculture. This is the future. So I cannot thank you enough. And I hope to hear a lot more about these companies, about new companies also. I'm very excited. Thank you.
So if I can say one closing remark.
Yes.
It's very important for me. There's a lot of brain power going into gaming and fintech and whatever. Okay, it's important, but feeding the world is more important. So if anyone is listening here and cares about the future of this planet, move your brain power to agriculture, to water, to clean energy, to food. This is where the brain power of the world is required right now. 100%. It's nice to have gaming, but it's not as important. So if you want to do good, and I believe make money, move there.
Wow, so true. It's so true. It's so simple, but people don't think about it because they expect it to get it either way. That's the problem. They expect always to have food, but you got to always look at the future to see, that's amazing. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been a pleasure speaking to you. I'm just so interesting. I'm thinking about so many things now, and you've been great. Thank you.
Thank you for giving me the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
It was amazing. Thank you so much.